A small group of boys walk down the street, throwing a ball in the air. One says to another, "Hey, I'll always be your brother. I'll always be your friend. Do you remember when we thought we were immortal, and the games we played always had a happy end? But in the game of life, all the roses wither, and time writes its lines upon your face." Summer's here, and 3 young men drive through the town in the night air. When fall comes, they'll part again. One turns to another and he says, "Well, do you remember when we thought we were immortal, and the games we played always had a happy end? But in the game of life, all the roses wither, and time writes its lines upon your face." It's 3 a.m. He's been feeling lonely. Work's been hard, and the city's hard too. He picks up the phone, and halfway across the country, a brother listens to his blues. He says, "Do you remember when we thought we were immortal, and the games we played always had a happy end? But in the game of life, all the roses wither, and time writes its lines upon your face." Lift your voices loud and clearly, sing for brother.
Welcome everyone to the 2016 Water Campfire, and thank you to all friends and family who could be with us this evening.
The 4 young men sitting behind us have done an amazing job throughout the entire summer leading their respective teams.
We ask that everyone please remain silent and hold all applause throughout the entire ceremony. Thank you.
Values are the guiding principles in our lives, and leadership occurs within the context of our core values. This young man beside me is a leader in every aspect. He guides and facilitates others to make a positive difference in his own life and contributes to a larger good. He focuses on what people believe and value and positively builds on this understanding. He possesses respect, kindness, integrity, courage, and an extreme amount of dedication. Diego respects everyone, regardless of their differences. a trait that many people of all ages still have difficulty doing. He treats others with compassion and love and gives respect to all who deserve it. Diego's kindness goes beyond his compassion and love. Whether he's with a counselor, camper, his cousin, or his brother, he will always be there for them, no matter what. His courage is demonstrated by his ability to act with the intention on behalf of the common good. He takes a stand in the face of adversity and acts boldly in the service of inclusion and fairness. Diego's 11 years of dedication as a camper is shown by commitment that extends beyond his own self-interest. We see Diego's humility by a sense of humbleness, dignity, and awareness of his own limitations. He's always open to perspectives different from his own, and this reveals his large amount of wisdom beyond his own age. Diego has a vast understanding of camp and an ability to balance the interests of multiple people while still making decisions. He considers every consequence in a long-term perspective. He spreads sunshine and good cheer just for the fun of it. I can't think of a moment throughout the day where Diego isn't making people smile. He has made the honorable decision of staying at camp for 11 years. He loves and cares for his brother and his cousin and everyone else unconditionally. And he would do anything for them. I've had the pleasure, the honor, and the privilege of watching you grow up from your 4-foot-tall, giggly 6-year-old self in Coogee 3 into a respectful, kind, loving, and dedicated young man. You will never know how many smiles you put on people's faces and how different other people's experiences would be without you, Diego. You've done Deerhorn the right way, and I hope that one day you will understand how proud I am of you for it. It is my utmost honor to present to you all the 2016 Apache leader, Diego Baños.
Camp Deerhorn. For most people around the world, it doesn't mean anything. But for the lucky few of us that have experienced it, it means everything. This is where people find true friendship, build character, have fun, and especially find another place to call home. Deerhorn isn't a regular camp. Here we are a big family who you can trust and grow up with. For many of these people that we could call the unlucky, their childhood ends up when they become teenagers. But for us, it is the other way around. We have managed to keep just a bit inside of us. That pure childish soul will help you enjoy life much more. These are a few of the many reasons why I love camp. When I first came to camp, I was a 6-year-old tiny Mexican little boy who couldn't speak English. To be honest, I don't really remember my first few years, but I know I had fun. My parents usually get questioned and considered crazy for sending me here so small, to a place where I couldn't communicate or have someone close to help me when I was in trouble. They always answer this question with a little story. They say that when they came to pick me up from camp, I smelled awful and looked very dirty. But the first thing I said when getting into the car was, how long until I could come back to this place? At that moment, they knew they made the good call. I agree that they were crazy, but I can't thank them enough for doing that. When I truly understood Deerhorn, I was 9. It was my 4th year as a camper. I remember I was on Spencer Rose's team, and it was one of the best summers I've had. I learned to slalom, got better at many activities, got a perfect water, and just had a super fun time overall. One of the most important lessons I got from that year is that you can always have fun while achieving any goal you set your mind to. It comes to how creative you can get. As the years passed, I kept improving and improving. Many people came back, some others didn't, but I just tried to have the most fun I could. And I definitely did. As the years passed, I moved on from being a little boy who just had fun to a mature boy who learned that life is not just about yourself, that you have to look out for others as well. I got to meet some of the greatest people I know. They helped my different experience to be greater, but most importantly, they made me a better person and showed me what a real friend looks like. After those years, we went on Explorer, a 3-day kayaking trip where we learned a ton of stuff that we wouldn't learn anywhere else. From brushing your teeth without leaving a trace, to looking for fire starters in the woods. What I like the most about this trip is that it brought me much closer to the 3 of the coolest and best friends I have, Andrew, Jake, and Max. We had some of the worst conversations ever. I can't remember them, but I know that that was a moment where I understood them and knew we were going to be friends. Next year, Voyager year. After 9 summers of waiting, it was finally my time to go on. It was 4 months before camp. I was already excited and I couldn't wait any longer. The day gets there. I wake up early in the morning and drive up to the airport. All I could think during the flight was how great the summer was going to be. Next day, I wake up, I get ready, I put the duffels in the car, and head to Starbucks for a traditional stop just before we went to the buses. Just to get to see so many familiar faces and smiles all around, I was shocked. Said hi to everyone I knew, took a picture with my brother, a selfie with my mother, said my goodbyes, and took off. While on the bus, I tried to take a nap to make the ride shorter, but as always, the excitement for camp was bigger and stronger than the craving for sleep. So I would listen to music and watch the movies they would play for us during the ride. After 5 hours of driving, I started looking out the window to see if anything seemed familiar. I think I looked out the windows for an hour. The 2 mile sign. What a great feeling. I feel butterflies in my stomach and got a huge smile on my face. I was finally in the best place on earth. I went down the bus and see everyone outside the bus willing to say hi and wanting to know how my winter was. I gave out a ton of hugs and sprayed into the Coogee to get a bottom bunk. I was too late and got a top bunk. At first, it didn't make me happy, but after, I realized I had an excuse to go in anybody's bed. The first 10 days flew by, and before I knew it, A session was over. I had a great time. I got lucky. Most of my friends stayed over for B session. There is nothing like hearing on the PA, the buses are here. We are always told to go to Coogee Row, but the excitement always overpowers it, and we went directly towards the buses. Kids start coming off the buses, and friend after friend steps down the bus. We are just relieved that most people made it back. The preparations for Voyager start, and I can't get more static. We learn to read maps, plan the trips, clean the kayaks, unflip them, and my favorite part, chugging an Nalgene full of water. After that, I could go and enjoy my rest hour. This kept on for around 2 weeks, and the actual preparations began. We got called, and we wrote down one person we wanted to be with on our tent groups. It seemed so simple, but it was one of the toughest assignments I got, just because I couldn't pick just one person. There were too many good friends to pick from. I finally decided and wrote down a name. I questioned it for days. We got called to a meeting, and they started reading out the 10 groups. When they said Diego Baños, Andrew Hauser, Jake Meth, and Max Tunnicliffe, I just couldn't believe it. That was just perfect. The day is almost there. We start packing our food, and it's just a jungle of people trying to get the best food. Honestly, that was tough, but a lot of fun. The day before we leave comes, and they give us a super small bag to put all our clothes in. All I could think was that I couldn't get everything in. I finally did it. I was pretty proud of myself. I moved on with the day. We woke up next day and I realized the big day was there. Got ready, said my goodbyes, and got in the bus. I took a nap, and before I knew it, we were at Bayfield. We unloaded our stuff, got to the kayaks, ready and packed, we were ready to go. The adventure began. I got the single-man kayak first, and I was afraid I was going to stay behind, but I did pretty well. After a little while, we got to the island. We unpacked everything from the kayaks and carried them up to our campsite. We set our tents and started cooking dinner. Me and Andrew knew how to cook, so we started making the burritos. In my opinion, they were pretty good. Just one complaint. We didn't cook the potatoes long enough, because we couldn't cut them. After we went to the dock and watched the beautiful sunset while playing some games. The next day, I wake up, put my shoes on, and felt a lot of pain. I shook it off and went outside for breakfast. We had oatmeal, and it was pretty good. We started getting all our stuff down to the beach, and I just couldn't take it anymore. So I decided to tell the leaders that my toes were covered in blisters. They started discussing if me and Trevino should get evacuated and come back to camp. They kept on talking for around 2 hours and came to the decision that we should go back. I had mixed emotions. I was angry, sad, disappointed, and frustrated, but it was their decision and I trusted them. I get in the kayak and paddled back to Bayfield. When we got to camp, everyone felt bad for me and Trevino. We had a long talk about it, but we agreed that it wouldn't ruin one of the best summers of our lives. The next day, we got taken to the clinic and met a lovely lady named Heather. She took care of our feet and gave us medicine to help them heal. Those 7 days with Trevino were some of the most fun I've ever had. We could go to any activity and do a lot of cool stuff. Those days really got me close to another of my best friends. We helped boost each other up even if it was very tough. The way we helped each other to keep a positive attitude was amazing, and I don't think I could have done it with anybody else. After the days passed, the other Voyagers got back and we ran up to them and asked them how they did on the trip. They all loved it, which made me happy but jealous at the same time. The week went on and the summer was over. It was a pretty sad day, but I was also happy to see my family. Some months went by, and I was back at school just living a regular life. One day, I come back from school, and a little later that day, I get a call from Patrick. I picked up the phone, and I was shaking a bit. After a little chat, he dropped the question, and I got into a shock for 5 seconds and told him I was going to check with my parents. I didn't really ask them anything. Instead, I used the time to celebrate in silence, took a deep breath, and said yes. They didn't tell me who the other leaders were, and I couldn't wait to be told. The next day, I received a group text and see Andrew, Jake, and Max are in it. I was thrilled. It took us less than a minute to start a group chat and started talking about how cool this summer was going to be. Little year came and I was very excited. During the school year, I would FaceTime Andrew, Jake, and Max all the time and just catch up on how we were doing. When I knew I was going to be the last leader to get to camp, I was very jealous, but I understood that they saved the best for last. When I got to camp and I stepped off the bus, the other leaders sprinted to me and Jake. Jake almost knocked me out after he jumped on me and hit my jaw. Even though we were in touch during the winter, we still had so much to talk about. So we went to the Kuji and I had the great surprise. Max clothes everywhere. I wasn't really shocked. We all know Max can get a little messy sometimes. When B session was finally here, I got super excited. All the Voyagers and my other very close friends got here. This summer I saw a lot of my friends become better persons that made me very happy. Some of the kids who turned out to be more awesome than I thought and got closer to are Philip, George, and Liam. They were role models to me. Their friendship was very sincere and was just magical. They made their own weird tradition of fool around while being stuck. After we picked our teams, I was thrilled with the Voyagers I picked. They made it after activities were very fun. We had very strange, funny, and deep conversations about random stuff, but the best part about it was that I got really close to them and got to know these kids better. After C session ended, I was destroyed. Many of my friends had to leave camp and I didn't know when I was going to see them again. The goodbyes are always the hardest part of camp. I won't say they're awful because I think they're beautiful in many ways. That is the point when you know if you have made a difference in other people's lives, how important you are to them, and how much they appreciate you. I had many hard goodbyes, but I will remember them for a long time. Now, the summer is almost over, and I feel like it's just getting started. I can't believe that after 11 summers, my time is almost over. It feels like just a few months back when I was looking at the Durham web page before camp my first year, scrolling through the pictures and looking at the countdown every day to see how close I was to going to the best place on earth. Durham has played a big part in who I am today. It helped me turn from a little shy boy to a grown, independent, confident man. Now, looking back on all those great years, I had some mistakes. I did some foolish stuff, but I won't change a thing. I have to thank Durham for all the lessons, friendships, memories, and just everything it has given me. Andrew, thank you for always being there for me. Even though you're significantly smaller than me, I could consider you an older brother, who I can mess around with and teach you the alphabet at the same time. Jake, thank you for being such a great person and teaching me that, in the end, it's worth going out of your way to help someone else's day a little better. You have a huge heart and one of the kindest and nicest persons I know. The only way you could be better, friend, is if you stop being allergic to nuts. Max, thank you for always putting a smile on my face. Even if it's an awful day, you do or say something that will make me laugh. You just have a gift, a good vibe that makes people want to be around you. As you usually say, you can be very weird sometimes, but you spread sunshine without noticing and I admire that a lot. Thank you guys for being always there for me. You keep me on track and push me out of my own limits. Honestly, I couldn't ask for a better crew of leaders. Just make my camp experience out of this world. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for the opportunity to come here. I know it's tough letting us live for 7 weeks year after year. I admire you. I don't think I could let someone as cool as me go for that long. Thank you, staff, for all the advice, tips, dedication, and patience you guys have given me along all these years. Without your help, I wouldn't be standing here right now. I know I wasn't very easy at first, but you changed me and turned me into the best version of myself. I am forever in debt because that's not a thing you can buy. It is a thing that only very special people can give to you. The magic thing about this place is that it's full of people just like that here. All my friends, you know who you are. Thank you for being there all the way across this path. You guys helped me enjoy the little things and cherish every moment in camp. Without you, I couldn't have accomplished this. You made this place special for me. Now I'm entering a new journey. It may not be at camp, but camp will be there for me whenever I need it. So thank you, Durham, because you have made me the man I am today.
Small group of boys walk down the street, throwing a ball in the air. One says to another, thought we were immortal, and the games we played always had a happy end. In the game of life, all the roses wither, and time writes his lines upon your face. Summer's here, and three young men drive through the town in the night air. Fall comes, they'll part again. One turns to another and he says, do you remember when we thought we were immortal, and the games we played always had a happy end? In the game of life, all the roses wither, and time writes his lines upon your face. It's 3 a.m. and you've been feeling lonely. Work's been hard and the city's hard too. You pick up the phone and halfway across the country, brother listens to your blues. Do you remember when we thought we were immortal, and the games we played always had a happy end? In the game of life, all the roses wither, and time writes his lines upon your face. Lift your voices loud and clearly, sing for brotherhood right now. Lift your voices loud and clearly, sing for sisterhood right now. Sometimes I wish that we all were immortal, and the games we played always had a happy end. I know it's not true, oh, time keeps passing, but I'm just glad to spend my time with you. Lift your voices loud and clearly, sing for brotherhood right now. Lift your voices loud and clearly, sing for sisterhood right now.
One of the hardest goodbyes at camp each year comes at the end of C session, when most or all of the Voyagers leave Deerhorn for the final time as campers. The summer of 2015 was no exception. After the buses left, Jake Menz was one of the last Voyagers to leave camp. Ryan Farrell and I were walking through Coogee Row and saw Jake loading up the last of his things into his bag. We went up to him to say goodbye one last time, and even though it was slightly taboo to do, we told him he would be in for one heck of a summer in 2016. We had seen this outstanding 15-year-old kid exceed any and every expectation that a staff member can set for a camper. Throughout his years at Deerhorn, Jake was always the gold standard for how to conduct yourself. Helpful in activities, kind to campers and staff, and just plain fun to goof around with, Jake makes life more enjoyable for his fellow campers and easier for counselors. Jake possesses so many great and enviable character traits, and honestly, too many to list in one speech. However, the one word that I think describes Jake best, and I know all those who know him would agree, would be genuine. Everything from his contagious laugh to his interactions with kids all lead back to that word, genuine. He'll put the same amount of effort into a conversation with a Group 12 camper about hodags and the octopotami that he does with one of the Broadbridges, and I think that is such an admirable virtue to carry. When I'm hanging out with Jake Menz, I don't feel like I'm talking to a 16-year-old high schooler. Rather, someone my age or older, and that speaks volumes about his versatile maturity. Few leaders in the 12 summers I've spent at camp have showed the combination of charisma, generosity, kindness, and spirit that Jake demonstrates every day. You would never know if Jake is having a bad day because even when he's tired or worn down, he'll still crack a joke or put a smile on your face, and that's pretty rare to find in the best of us. It's not just the way he acts or the things this guy next to me says that makes him so unique. It's the way he carries himself, as if he's had a decade or more of life experience than his age would otherwise suggest, that makes him so uncommon. Menz is one of those people who's good at pretty much everything he does, so it would make sense if he were to display a sense of arrogance going through activities. But no, not Jake Menz. He walks around with a sort of quiet confidence that is so cool to see day in and day out. Even when a younger camper compliments him for getting up on one ski or doing a jump on a wakeboard, Jake will be the first one to deflect the praise given to him, as if it were no big deal. This humble attitude he exhibits is such a commendable way to go through life because it teaches everyone from young members of Coogee 2 to the seasoned Deerhorn vets like Tom Tunnicliffe to simply be a better person. During the final Sunday event of the summer, Tom, Chris Young, and I were out on the float boat watching L4 complete the final relay of the day, which began with a Viking ship race. Even when his canoes were quickly filling up with water, and it was clear that the Chippewa team would finish that part of the race in last, there was Jake cheering on his team, saying things like, "Come on guys, we can still win," or "Don't give up, we got this." Tom turned to Chris and I and said about Jake, "He's just a stud." I think I can speak to the entire Deerhorn staff in saying that's pretty spot on in describing this leader. He simply gets it. So there you have it. Kind, genuine, humble, and optimistic are all attributes demonstrated by the man leading the team in yellow this summer. The world could use a lot more people like you, Jake Menz. Sure, we need to have a few extra EpiPens on hand, but it would certainly be a better place for everyone. So with that, it is with the highest honor that I introduce my friend, role model, and the 2016 Chippewa leader, Jake Menz.
The night before I came to camp, my first year, I cried. At that point, Camp Deerhorn was just a name to me, a foreign, scary place with unfortunate surprises awaiting me around every turn. I thought of it as only a piece of land and a group of people that kept me from my parents for almost a month. As the bus rolled down Big D Drive for the first time in my camper career, camp was as I imagined it, foreign. Yet as I settled into a typical Deerhorn day, I realized camp was not a jail meant to hold me hostage, but rather a place of freedom meant to entertain and teach me. So, my first year at Deerhorn didn't turn out so bad, but when it came time to sign back up, I hesitated. I liked camp, but it didn't feel like home yet. So I stayed pretty quiet, and through camp, I kept my head pretty much down. I was 14, my Explorer year, when I started to make camp my home for the first time. I began to feel as if I belonged here, and I started to take ownership of my camp experience. Fittingly, this was also the year I began to get closer to my camp friends, in particular these three sitting next to me. In 2014, I got my first warrior, made amazing friends, and left camp with tears in my eyes, already longing to be back for Voyager year. The summer of 2015, my Voyager year, was the best summer I had ever had. Driving down Big D Drive, this time before one of the biggest summers of my life, the road, the skeeter, the soccer field, which at one point had all felt so strange and unknown to me, now felt like home. Running up to Coogee 22 that day, seeing the friends I had missed for so long, I felt that sense of belonging that I had been searching and unconsciously waiting for all winter. My Voyager year was one full of ups and downs, pizza and seasickness, but it was also the year I felt myself fully emerged from the shell I had been in for all my years at camp. Last year, for the first time, I saw myself on the other side of the situation I had been in for so long. I saw younger kids, their first year at camp, happy, but also quiet and a little bit homesick, and in these kids I saw myself. Now, with the experience I had, I felt a responsibility to help them feel that they belonged to your camp and that they were home, just like so many campers, leaders, and counselors had done for me growing up. The connections like these and the relationships I formed last year with campers and counselors of all ages all made leaving camp last year feel like I was leaving a family, one that I value and cherish now more than I ever thought I would. So I had a family and a home here at Deerhorn, and I couldn't imagine a life without it. I was at hockey practice when Patrick called me this past September. I returned his call about an hour later, and my immediate answer to his question was one of excitement and shock. I was going to be a leader. But then, reality hit, and it hit hard. As time moved on and A session grew closer, I began to realize that all the commitments and relationships I had made at home would have to come second to camp. With hockey, baseball, school, testing, and life in general becoming increasingly demanding, it became more and more difficult and daunting to leave the real world for 2 months. Every week, and as summer drew near every day, my friends and teammates asked me why I was going to camp. They unfailingly told me how much I would miss, how behind on everything I would be when I came home. I knew they were right, but I knew how much I was missing home and how the expectations were for me. But each time doubt began to creep into my mind, I pictured camp, and I pictured the faces of the family I had here. I knew how important camp really was to me, and I believed deep down that at the end of the summer, I wouldn't trade the experience I had for anything in the world. I knew from the moment I accidentally shouldered Diego in the jaw when he got off the bus that first day that this summer wouldn't all be smooth sailing. I made mistakes this year, too many to count, but I learned from them. And each time something went wrong, and each time I felt down, someone was always there to pick me back up again. So thank you to everyone who picked me back up when I was down. Thank you, McKinley, for the best summer ever, and for teaching me how to have fun, even in the toughest of situations. Thank you, Ryan, Sam, and Kiana, for all the amazing team events that made Sundays and the occasional Tuesday a blast. And Ryan and Sam for making K1 an amazing place to live for 2 months. Thank you to all the campers and counselors, of whom there are too many to name, who helped make this summer special. Thank you to my family for giving me this opportunity to come here every year. I'm especially grateful to all the Chippewa out there, in particular my Voyagers and Pioneers. All you guys embraced the bright yellow and made this summer better than I could have ever imagined. Finally, Andrew, Diego, Tuna, I love you guys. Andrew, I would have never thought that the kid I was intimidated by from Florida with the earrings would become one of my best friends. Diego, you're the rock, man. Thank you for holding everything together and just bringing a smile on my face every day. Tuna, you're a goon, and I love you, man. You laugh at every single situation, and whenever I'm feeling down, you're always there to pick me right back up. I feel like I've known you guys for a lifetime, and from Explorer to Billy Cartel to L4, we've been through it all. I know it'll only get harder to see each other as time goes on, but I know that somehow we will. You three are my best friends in the world, and I can't imagine Deerhorn without you. I like to say it's a small miracle that I found Deerhorn, and it's another small miracle that I'm standing here today. If I've learned 2 things from Deerhorn over the years, it's these 2 pieces of advice. If you're trying something new, give it time. You just might love it. And if you love something, never, ever let it go.
graveyard shift midnight till dawn. The moon was as bright as a reading light for a letter from an old friend back home. And he asked me, why do you ride for your money? And why do you rope for short pay? You ain't getting nowhere and you're losing your share. Boy, you must have gone crazy out there. He said, last night I run into Jenny. She's married and has a good life. You sure miss the track when you never come back. She's the perfect professional's wife. And she asked me, why does he ride for his money? Then why does he rope for short pay? He ain't getting nowhere and he's losing his share. Boy, he must have gone crazy out there. But then they've never seen the northern lights. They've never seen a hawk on its wing. They've never seen a spring at the Great Divide. And they've never heard old Mike Makey sing. So I read up the last of my letter and tore off the stamp for Big Jim. When Billy rode up to relieve me, he just looked at my letter and grinned. And he asked me, why do they ride for their money? And why do they rope for short pay? They ain't getting nowhere and they're losing their share. Boy, they all must be crazy out there. But then they've never seen the northern lights. They've never seen a hawk on its wing. They've never seen a spring at the Great Divide. And they've never heard old Mike Makey sing. But they've never seen the northern lights. They've never seen a hawk on its wing. They've never seen a spring at the Great Divide. And they've never heard old Mike Makey sing.